Hello and welcome to Bhagavad Gita chapter 16. This is called the divine and demoniac qualities. It's going to be a very controversial topic, and I'd love for you to write down your questions in the comments or in the chat if you're here in the live program. And let's get started. There's a lot here, and I want to make sure we try to cover it. So, Chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. So we start off with some questions. Why is there so much war and violence in the world today? Why do humans treat each other so badly? Why are we so selfish, greedy, insensitive, and volatile? Why do we suffer depression, anxiety, and mental illness? There are so many problems facing our world today, and it's very hard to understand why things are the way they are. The biggest scapegoat for it all has been religion. Religion has indeed been the cause of endless wars and millions of deaths. Religion asked its followers to convert all non-believers. It controlled and marginalized people, and it caused shame and guilt and fear. None of those are pleasant things. They have caused tremendous suffering for people all over the world. But despite religion being the scapegoat, is it the only cause? Because we've seen a lot of things happen in present time. In the past 100 years, the similar atrocities have been committed by politicians, by communists, by capitalists. Yes, our own capitalists have committed tremendous atrocities all over the world, from slave trade to exploitation of the poor, to not caring about things like public welfare and health. Yes, and then we've had racists and we've had nationalists. And all of these are not driven by religion. They're driven by many other causes. Then again, think of a time when there was no religion prior to all of this, and still there was so much of problems in the world. There was still, people, tribes warring with each other, people quarreling, fighting. We've had so much of this going on, and you wonder, why? Why is humanity like this? Why do we behave in these foolish and ridiculous ways? So perhaps the cause, and some would like to say the cause is the patriarchy, the testosterone-driven male. It's all their fault. And it's the fault of all the men in the world. And if only there weren't, there were women ruling the world, maybe it'd be a different place. And you know what? You might be right. I don't know. We've never not had that. But we've had women leaders, prime ministers and presidents of different countries. And it hasn't taken away conflict. It hasn't taken away war. It hasn't made the world a better place. All right, what else could it be? Evolution. Maybe the root cause of the problem is evolution. We've just evolved into this kind of a creature that just keeps on quarreling with itself and internally, externally, with everybody around. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe it's greed. And there's nobody, and the fact that we need to control others, and maybe we want to have as much as possible. I don't know. Maybe you might believe in one of these being the cause. Then again, there's another scapegoat that's been around for a while, and that scapegoat has been called evil, the devil, demons. They've been given the responsibility for all the trouble of the world, that they're somehow haunting people, possessing people, that they're somehow causing all of this. Maybe we're just innocent little bystanders, and it's the devil's work. So we've had lots of different explanations. Let's take a look at some of those. So according to the Abrahamic religions, the devil or Satan is a fallen angel. And this being was also known as the Prince of Darkness, the adversary, the deceiver, the enemy. And he's locked in an eternal struggle with God. And his function is he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. This is what the Bible says. So that's one understanding. let's see where it takes us. Of course, then it takes us into understanding that, well, there's one devil, but then there's all these demons who are doing the devil's work. They're malevolent supernatural entities, forces of evil striving to corrupt humanity, and their function is to cause humans to have sinful thoughts and tempting humans to commit sinful actions. Okay. And then unfortunately, Hollywood has joined in on this game and has given it a face and made it into a monster. They've sold their movies to millions of people because, together with religion, fear is big business. Fear sells in a big way, right? We've seen it again and again. People love horror movies. Now, I never believed any of that. And I got to experience something very interesting that I would never have dreamt was the case. I always thought that, oh no, this world is, we're all beings of light, we're all souls, we've come to this world and there is no evil, there is no such thing as that. It's just God and there's just light and there's just the universe and, somehow this bad stuff's happening, but I don't know why. Then I began to do hypnotherapy and past life regression, and then I would sometimes, often, in fact, maybe 50% of the time I'd discover that a lot of times people they started off being able to visualize or imagine or do whatever, relax, and then now suddenly they couldn't. And it was becoming repetitive again and again and again. I came across this thing, and so I began to ask them, what are you seeing when you've got your eyes closed? And it says suddenly become all dark. So I began to call this thing darkness. And I learned a few things about it. I learned that there was a dark energy present in the human body and mind. I found it present in everyone I worked with. I then went on to try to understand it further, and what I understood is that it invasively brainwashes humans from within their mind to bring about fear, doubt, confusion, feelings of unworthiness, mistrust in ourselves and each other, feelings of unsafety, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, helplessness, sabotage, and destruction. That's a lot of stuff. And how do I know this is just not coming from the wounded ego and the wounded self? A lot of it is. But there's a voice in our head that seems to keep on magnifying that, making that our unworthiness, our not being good enough, as if we were, this like some unassailable truth about ourselves, and we were, useless and couldn't do anything right. So it's not just one person, but almost every person I come across has some version of this going on. And while I know that we also struggle with our mind and ego, there seems to be another force at work. I made a video about that, which I called The Mind Virus, or the bully, or the demon bully within your mind. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. I won't go into the details here, but do check it out. If you're interested in the topic, go to my YouTube channel and you'll find it there, Mind Virus. Oh, no, we don't want to play it. And so what's the solution for that? My basic understanding of having presented some of my findings was that we need to become spiritual warriors. We need to learn to fight back and defeat the voice of darkness in our mind. And our true power lies within our soul and God, and which is why I do these programs, because I feel this is where we empower ourselves to understand who we are and who is God. And through that, we can begin the process of learning to enjoy being a human being, when we bring together our spiritual and human sides. All right, now we'll take a look at the Vedic version. In the Vedas, which is this Bhagavad Gita that we're now reading from, the Vedas don't go into this kind of demonology. They do talk, however, of two things. They talk about Sura, or the divine nature, or divine consciousness, and Asura, the demonic nature, or demonic consciousness. They refer to these as qualities and attributes which can be exhibited through our actions and deeds. They also talk about this being deeply connected with our relationship with God. So therefore, the lack of that relationship is very likely to produce this kind of qualities, because the divine qualities arise from within us. They are part of our soul. They are part of who we are. And without that connection with the soul, without that connection with the source of that soul, which is God, we will find ourselves easily attacked by various forces. Those forces, as we said earlier, could be political or racial or brainwashing through media, and it could be through some energies that try to pollute our mind. But we will not have the power to be able to deal with them unless we understand them better. So what are the qualities of a divine person? And what are the qualities of someone who has developed demonic qualities? Now, the idea in the Vedas is not that demonic means some, being with horns, but you're going to find it's very normal stuff, and it can apply to any of us. So let's take a look. First, Krishna begins by talking about the transcendental qualities, the spiritual the divine qualities that belong to godly people. And those qualities, he gives a huge list. This is just a part of it. Fearlessness, charity, self-control, non-violence, truthfulness. And many of us know these things, so I won't elaborate that. Tranquility, compassion, gentleness, modesty, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, renunciation. You can see it's a very lengthy list of qualities: purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, freedom from anger, aversion to fault-finding, freedom from covetousness, that is, freedom from greed, steady determination, freedom from envy, and the passion for honor. So this is a huge list of the divine qualities. And then he goes on to talk about the qualities of someone who has a demonic nature. And those are arrogance, pride, anger, conceit, harshness, ignorance of spirituality. These qualities belong to those of demonic or asura nature. Now keep in mind, there is a degree and there is a specific way in which this works, because we all have some degree of pride and anger and conceit, and sometimes we can be harsh, and sometimes there are many things about spirituality we don't know. So don't please jump into this literally. To some degree it applies to all of us, and to some degree it applies to none of us. So just be patient. Let's go further and you'll understand it more clearly. The importance of these qualities is this, that the transcendental qualities, the divine qualities, lead to liberation. Liberation means freedom from the cycle of birth and death. They lead to a freedom from karma, and they lead to a release from the suffering on this material world. Is that a promise made somewhere out there when you die and then you go and then you'll experience it? No. The divine qualities lead to an experience of peace and grace and of beauty in this world here and now. There is not some future promise of this. It is a present day experience. So Krishna continues here, the transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation from the world, whereas the demonic qualities make for bondage to the world. Do not worry, O Arjun, for you were born with the divine qualities. Now, Arjun was a highly evolved being. And yes, he was born with these qualities. You too were born with many divine qualities. You too were born with many incredible strengths of compassion, of kindness, of many qualities that were listed earlier. Focus on that and build on that. The other qualities of anger and of the foibles that we have, right? Those need to be worked on and overcome, and we can. But the fastest way to overcome them is really through the process of spiritual evolution and growth. It doesn't happen easily by trying to do all kinds of juggling of the mind. It does happen a lot better as you meditate and as you spend time with that inner self, with the soul. As you become identified with that, the journey becomes easier because the soul naturally has these qualities. And the more you're identified with the soul, the more you are connected to it and identified with it, the more you'll find yourself living those qualities. You will not individually have to try to develop them. They exist within you. And it's just a choice, learning to choose. Do I want to believe in my soul, or do I want to believe in what my mind is telling me? The mind, as Krishna pointed out in an earlier chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, can be our friend or it can be our enemy. He said for one who has learned to control the mind, it will be the best of friends. And for one who has failed to do so, it will be the greatest enemy. That failing to do so, that failing to take charge of our mind, is exactly what he's referring to as the demonic qualities. Those are what now start to develop: hatred, anger, wanting to control others, wanting to manipulate, greed, all of that stuff. Arrogance arises from not having controlled our mind. And nobody actually teaches us how to do so. Not our schools, not our colleges, not even our religions teach us. They teach us to do prayers and worship and this and that, but they don't teach us how to tame the mind. And that is, in fact, one of the greatest problems on our planet, is that we are not teaching this most important thing: how to discipline and work with this human mind. It's like this incredibly powerful computer. Nobody has given us the tools with which to operate it. And on top of that, it's now being infected with viruses, mind viruses, that are distorting our perception and making us hate ourselves, hate others, start creating wars and conflict and division and all kinds of things, and without caring about the consequences of what we're doing, either to each other, ourselves, or the planet. So it really is the product of uncontrolled minds, and we need to become aware of that. In this world, Krishna says, there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine, that is divya or sura, and the other demonic, asura. Means non-divine. There is no actual word like demonic in Sanskrit. It simply means the absence of divine qualities. That's all. So when we translate it as demonic, I don't know if that's an accurate translation. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demonic. Those who are demonic, now these qualities I think is something to pay more attention to than the word demonic, because I think that's not an accurate representation. Those who are demonic do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So a lot of people have this, no idea of what is actually right and wrong, what is to be done, what is not to be done. In Sanskrit it is pravritim and nivritim. Pravriti is that which elevates you, that which causes you to raise your consciousness, and nivritim is what degrades your consciousness. That's the actual meaning. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. And now we get down to the real thing. They say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation, that there is no God in control. It is produced by sexual desire and has no cause other than lust. So we see this 5,000 years ago. Krishna is talking about this to Arjuna, explaining things that we now see in a big way. The world has become filled with atheism. Why? Why did atheism prosper so much? Why did it develop so much? My opinion is it's because of the way religion presented God to people. They presented God as this awful being who sent people to hell and condemned them forever, his own children who he supposedly loved so much. I mean, what kind of father would do that? Clearly, any intelligent thinking person would get turned off, right? And that's what happened. So millions of people all over the world got turned away from religion, not realizing that, hey, this was just a distortion created by human beings. You don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You need to go deeper. You need to find those paths, those religions, those systems that actually did not try to do this. They did not try to talk about a heaven and hell. They didn't believe in such things. They weren't interested in a devil or trying to fight with God. They looked at things from a very different perspective. And that perspective you're going to find here in the Vedas is a perspective that appeals to intelligent people, a perspective that actually makes sense. So it's based on qualities. And like I said, the word demonic here is not about some devil with horns, but rather is about, some qualities that we have, which I refer to as asura, non-divine. That's what it's about. So let's start to understand it further. But atheism has clearly been triggered by this kind of religion, plus all the wars and everything, all the other, child abuse and whatnot we've seen happen through religious institutions. All of that is a product of people not having divine qualities. See, when you have something that is faith-based and you have something that is a blind belief, then you're not focusing on developing qualities. You just know that you're saved and everything is done for you, so you got to do nothing. You just got to show up. And I'm sorry, that doesn't work. I've often said to people who say that to me, they said, you know what, if all of you went to heaven, you'd make hell in heaven, just like you've done on this planet Earth. So I don't buy into that idea that we're going to be saved and we're going to go somewhere. We need to develop those qualities here and now. We need to awaken to our spiritual nature and begin to live it. Then we are qualified to enter into the realms of God. Then we will not disrupt that environment. Then we will be a great asset to that place. But if we go there as we are right now, I doubt it. So this is the outcome of all our atheism, is that they say there is no God in control. The world is produced by sexual desire and has no other cause other than lust. Following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and less intelligent in a spiritual sense, they might be very intelligent materially. They might know a lot. They might be extremely smart. But that's not real buddhi. Buddhi is spiritual intelligence. Right? In the Vedas, they separate that. Spiritual intelligence is very different than material intelligence. That comes to the level of the mind. But real intellect is something else. So they are lost to themselves. They're lost to their real true self, their soul. They're lost to their true nature. And they engage in unbeneficial, horrible works. Ahit. Hit means that which is for the benefit of others. Instead of doing things that are for the benefit of others, they engage in unbeneficial or ahit works, horrible works, that result in destroying the world. And I think we've definitely taken the cake or won the Oscars when it comes to destroying the world. We have countries now bombing each other literally into oblivion. This happened during the World War. This has happened again and again over the centuries. And we're once again looking at various countries wanting to do that to each other. We're looking at potential strikes that could happen anywhere, anytime in the world, because the world is full of crazy people. People who are not interested in the hit or the welfare of others. They are interested only in their own greed, in their own power, in their own domination, in their own aggrandizement. And that is the problem. When you do not have God in the center of your life, then what happens is you want to become the God of your life. You want to be the one in charge, and you want to be the one that everyone looks up to. I'm not saying you specifically, but I mean the ego. And to some degree, that's all of us. But to the degree that these politicians and dictators take it, well, that's a whole other level, right? But when it comes down to that basic seed, we need to see it in ourselves. We too have that in us, the ego. And it too, because it is weak and fragile, it wants to act like it's great and big. And if anybody dares to criticize us or judge us, it wants to fight back with them or run away from them, fight, flight, or freeze, right? It goes into that. And the ego is fragile. And that's why you'll see the biggest tyrants, rather, are sometimes the weakest people inside. But they have to make this big exterior. People who are empty inside, there's the saying, empty vessels make the most noise. So the ones who are empty inside, who are shallow inside, who do not have their spiritual self to lean back on, they are completely identified with their ego. And the result of that is they create havoc on this planet. That's what's going on. The demonic take shelter of insatiable lust. Lust here being greed. Lust here being desire. Insatiable desire, pride, false prestige. And being thus in illusion or moha, they are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Keep this in mind, being attracted, we are all attracted to the impermanent. From the media, and advertising, they want to sell us in on all kinds of things. But those things are all impermanent. Our house, our car, are the things we buy, the beautiful stuff that we adorn our bodies and our houses with, they're all impermanent. This body is impermanent. This life is impermanent. We need to start looking at what is it that is permanent? What is it that is lasting? What is it that actually goes with us at the time of death? Nothing of this world does. But what does? We do. We leave this body, and that's been proven again and again through near-death experiences. It's been proven in so many different ways. Past life regressions, you name it. There's been so many ways. And of course, scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and all have talked to us about a life beyond death. What goes with us beyond death is that which is permanent, that which is eternal. And that which is eternal is actually that which matters. It is that which is real. The rest of it doesn't matter because we leave it behind. We have it for a few years and then poof, it's gone. It could be a few days, a few years, a few months, you don't know. But then it's gone. You no longer have it. You no longer have the body, you no longer have the mind, you no longer have your story, you no longer have your possessions, you no longer have the loved ones that you care so much about. You're out of the body. And when you start to live your life from that perspective, you look at the world differently. When you realize I'm not just a human being, I am a spiritual being. But not just a spiritual, I'm a spiritual being and a human being together. See, many people make the mistake, I'm only a spiritual being. Or others make the mistake, I'm only a human being. We are not either or. We are both human and spiritual simultaneously. Therefore, it is a great task to be able to learn how to run this vehicle on both wheels, how to honor the human and honor the spirit simultaneously, and how to do this with grace and without creating havoc in the world. They believe that to gratify the senses unto the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization. Please hear those words carefully. They believe that to gratify the senses unto the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus there is no end to their anxiety. Yeah, think about it. Bound by hundreds and thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by any means for sense gratification. See, that's when you define your life by enjoyment of the senses, there is no end. If you look at the downfall of the Roman Empire, that's what it was. They finally came to that place where it was all about, enjoyment. It was all about pleasure. And the Western world has moved in that direction as well, not realizing that while pleasure is a wonderful thing, I know nothing against pleasure, by all means have pleasure, but keep in mind it is not the goal of life. The goal of life is something far beyond pleasure. In fact, all pleasure can be really brought down to one simple thing: energy. If you really want pleasure, it's not by having more food, more sex, more money, more vacations, more this, more that. It's not by having more that you will get more pleasure. It is by refining your ability to be able to extract pleasure from the simplest of things, from the smallest of moments, from the most ordinary events. Because pleasure is actually a potency of Krishna. It is called Haladini Shakti. Radha, his beloved, is known to be the embodiment of pleasure, of Haladini Shakti. And Krishna is known as the supreme enjoyer. So all enjoyment actually is meant for him. And we are all to be enjoyed by him. We are for his enjoyment. But we instead wish to be God, and we wish to enjoy unlimitedly. That is the folly of human beings. That is the folly of a world in which we are not taught the deep secrets of spirituality. So how to enjoy things without, trying to seek more and more and more? By fine-tuning your senses, by really observing, by really being present to everything you eat and everything you see and everything you hear. Fine-tuning, it's an art. I can teach you some other time, but right now I'll just keep it brief. But fine-tuning your presence to something allows you to extract the maximum energy from it. For example, if you were to savor your food and eat just small quantities, you could savor what you're eating and you wouldn't need to eat a lot. But if you were watching TV, for example, and eating away at the same time, you'd end up eating a lot of food because you're not paying attention to what you're eating. You're not savoring it. And as a result of it, you will go for quantity, not quality. And that is exactly what is happening with the world. We want more and more and more quantity, as if quantity will satisfy. But quantity has never satisfied, no matter if you won an entire empire, no matter if you ruled the entire world. It has never satisfied, and it has never been permanent. So we need to learn from history and not keep repeating it. The demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and other enemies will also be killed. Now this is, of course, at the height of power. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest person surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But please keep writing down your questions in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Please make sure that you're really questioning this. This is not something for you to believe. This is not something for you to agree with. This is something for you to contemplate. This is something for you to understand that it's not just out there, but elements of that also exist in all of us. And we need to become aware of them and weed them out. It's so important to understand that. How does this apply to me? And where is it I need to reflect? And what is it I need to work on? Yeah. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusion, one becomes too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and falls down into hell. Now, once again, we could look at hell as being something that is some place with fire and brimstone and all this kind of thing. The Vedas don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. Because it's a ridiculous notion, honestly. I mean, why would a father send his children there? Why would a God who is compassionate and kind and loving send his children to burn in a place forever? I mean, Hitler killed people, 6 million of them, 11 million some say. But he didn't kill them forever. He didn't make them burn forever. He punished them. I mean, he tortured them and he killed them in gas chambers and they died in a matter of 20, 30 minutes. I'm not condoning what he did. It's ridiculous. It is obnoxious. It is a monstrosity. And I hope we learn from it and never repeat such stuff. But look at what we've done to God. We've said God is 1,000,000 times worse than Hitler because he doesn't just kill his children in gas chambers. He burns them forever. Who would want to believe in such a God? It's ridiculous. Right? He makes him the biggest tyrant on earth. And it's just befuddling, right? And of course, he loves you. And he's doing this because he loves you. Ever had a parent who beat the heck out of you and said, I'm doing this because I love you? Well, that was just a beating. And it stopped after 10, 20, 30 minutes. But this is ridiculousness personified. right? They've made God into a monster. In the Vedas, we understand God as a beautiful being, fun-loving, playful, dancing, singing. There is no hell. So let's get over that notion, please. What they're saying when they're saying here it falls down into hell is right here, right now is our hell. Hell is in our mind. We suffer here. This is heaven and this is hell, right here, right now. If we have developed these demonic qualities, these qualities where we become greedy and arrogant and proud and desire all kinds of things, then what will happen is we will live in our own personal hell. And that is what we need to watch out for. That is what the Bhagavad Gita is cautioning us against. It continues, self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, they become envious and blaspheme God, who is situated within their heart and in all living beings. If only we would see that God is situated in my heart and in every living being, then I would treat every living being with the utmost of respect. Then I would treat every living being as if God had walked into my presence, and I would honor them, and I would be respectful to them and kind to them, as I would if God was in my presence. Think about it. When you meet someone, you see them according to how they look. Don't mean you personally, but generally we look at that and we judge them according to the way they look, the way they talk, their education, their mental faculties, and so on and so forth. We judge and evaluate them, and we put them in a little box. That is not fair. No human being needs to be treated like that. Every one of them has the spark of God within them, whether they are aware of it or not, whether they are living it or not. Our job is to see that within them, to find the beauty within them, to find the goodness within them, and to help them bring it out, and for them to see it for themselves. Yes, that is a noble task. But to condemn them, very easy. To judge them, so effortless for our mind and for our ego. Try the opposite and see what a difference it makes to the world around you. When you can find the beauty in everyone, you can find the goodness in everyone, when you can find the soul of everyone, when you can find the God within everyone, no matter how bizarre or crazy they might be. It might be completely covered over, that divine presence, but can you spot it? That's a great challenge. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest of mankind, nar adham. Adham means very low. Nara means human. The human beings who are the lowest of mankind are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various inauspicious and demonic species. So, keep in mind, when Krishna is saying that they are cast by me, he is not personally doing anything. God has no particular vengeance against anyone, or it is the consequence of our actions. Our actions have reactions. Our actions have consequences. And when we act in a way that is unkind and hurtful and terrorizing others, then certainly we need to continue on that path. What he's saying here is that what he says it in an earlier part of Gita as well, that whatever your consciousness is at the time of leaving this body, that will determine the next life that you will take. So in other words, if you've been pursuing a spiritual life right now, your next life you will also continue with people who are more spiritual, so that your journey can continue from that place. It doesn't mean they'll be perfect. They'll set up those parents will have their set of challenges as well for you. But you will start again from that place of being, of spiritual awareness, where that can be activated all over again. On the other hand, if you've been pursuing demonic activities or hurtful activities to other beings, acting against their free will, then you will find yourself amongst beings who are of that nature. Your consciousness will be drawn to those who are of a similar consciousness. Like attracts like. You will find yourself amongst those people. And then that will perpetuate more of the same. The idea is for you to keep on sinking and sinking and sinking, and somewhere there will be a breaking point. I'm talking about consciousness, sinking in your consciousness, until there's a breaking point and you turn around and say, you know what, this is not okay. I am not okay living like this. I am not okay amongst these people. I have to get out and I have to find a better way. And this has happened with many in the past who were, like the story of Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, the great epic of Ramayana, about the stories of Ram, the avatar of God, of Vishnu. And Valmiki was a dacoit. Dacoits are people who murder and steal from other people. They're completely ruthless, and they couldn't care less about human life. They will kill people on a whim. This has been there for hundreds of years in India, and there's other versions of gangsters out here in the West. But whichever version of that you're talking about, this is a level of consciousness. That's why these people don't think beyond that. That's why they can't think beyond that, because this is their place that they have sunk down to. They are demonic beings living here and now in their own hell, their self-created hell. As they move from one body to another, they keep on being attracted to such consciousness. They keep surrounding themselves with such people. They don't want to be around someone who's divine and saintly and kind and loving. Come on, that's boring for them. Attaining repeated births amongst demonic species, such persons are unable to approach me. Now that's the consequence of going there. Gradually they deteriorate to the most abominable type of existence. There are 3 gates leading to this hell: desire, anger, and greed. Every sane person should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Now the word for desire is kama. Kam can be translated as lust, as it is by most people, but it actually means desire. Desire can be lust, but it can be many more things as well. Desire, anger, and greed. Understand these 3. Every sane person should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. You see, we are in a society that actually promotes desire. We are in a society that advocates desire, that wants us to have more and more and more. Desire and greed. And then when the things that we desire are not available to us, we get angry. That's what you're seeing happen right now, when a lot of people see the inequality in society, that some people have so much and we have so little. There is anger brewing. And that anger is the product of desire and greed. Capitalism leads to that. I'm not saying communism's any better, please don't misunderstand me, or socialism's had its problems as well. I'm not advocating one system over another, but capitalism does promote greed. It is unabashedly about greed and desire. And desire, when it is thwarted, we're now looking at the consequence of that. When that desire is not met, when people see some people living in mansions and in big houses and driving fancy cars and they don't have 2 square meals to eat, that's when the French Revolution happened. That's what's happening in the United States today. That's been happening in the Bolshevik Revolution. It has happened again and again and again. But this is where the path leads, and we need to wake up and understand it. Desire, anger, and greed. One who has escaped these 3 gates of ignorance, tamas, performs acts conducive to self-realization. So this is the alternative. Perform acts conducive to self-realization. And thus gradually, such a person attains the supreme destination. Supreme destination is in this world and beyond this world. One who discards these scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. One should understand what is duty, karya, and what is not duty, what should be done, what should not be done, akarya. By knowing the rules and regulations of scriptures or shastra, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So that's, in short, the point. That we must act in a way that elevates our consciousness, not degrades our consciousness. We are here for exactly that. That is why we took birth as human beings, so that we would elevate our consciousness and we would grow spiritually. That was the point. But we are given the opposite, the opportunity to do everything the opposite of what is best for us. Yes, we have been given free will, and you are free to do whatever it is you like and develop whatever state of mind you want, whatever consciousness you want. But once you see the folly of those ways, if you choose, the path to divinity is wide open and available to all of us. All of us need to work on this, to elevate ourselves, our consciousness, and not degrade ourselves. If there is one simple message to take away from the Bhagavad Gita, it would be this: how can I consistently elevate my consciousness, raise my awareness, and work on bettering the way I am as a human being? And the easiest way to get there is to connect with your spiritual self, your soul, through meditation and by surrender to God. There is nothing more simple and profound in helping us get there. All right, we'll stop with the reading now, and I'm going to open it up to questions. Give me a moment and I'll be with you. All right. Good. Do we have any questions? You can unmute your mics now and turn on your camera, and I'd love to hear from you. Do you have any questions? This has been a very controversial topic. There's been a lot in here, and I hope you've been taking some notes or writing down some things. Bruce writes, I don't have any questions, but I am impressed with your teaching. Thank you, Bruce. I'm very honored that you're here and very honored that this meant something to you. Thank you. There are all the past chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are available on my YouTube channel. And if any of you wants to go there and review some of the previous chapters, you'll find them in a playlist, Bhagavad Gita online course. Yes, all the recordings from the Zoom sessions go to YouTube. My YouTube channel can be found. You can just type in Spiritual Wisdom Channel or my name, Rohit Juneja, either or both. And you'll be able to find my channel. There's a playlist there, Bhagavad Gita online course. Thank you, Bruce. You can review all the previous episodes and all the different chapters. And we're now at chapter 16. We have 2 more to go, 17 and 18. After which we're going to start from another book of the Vedas called the Shrimad Bhagavatam. It is beautiful. It is full of so many incredible stories. Unlike the Bhagavad Gita, which is more philosophical, there is philosophy there in the Bhagavad, but there is also some incredibly beautiful stories. So it'll be even more exciting. We're going to start that after 3 weeks from now. Sure. Could you put on the video just for a moment, please? Oh, it is. Sorry. If you're not okay with that, that's fine. Don't. Go ahead. Ask your question. You don't need to turn on the video. Just ask your question. Yes. Yes, I completely agree with you there. This is not for the, not in the beginning stages. This is a more advanced stage where where your spiritual self is really strong and powerful. And then you can begin to do that with others. But in the beginning stages, to whatever degree you can, don't allow yourself to get, go into their world and become part of it. I am referring to being able to see that and keep your distance from people who have that kind of nature. Keep your distance. If you do need to interact with them, then in your interactions, try and see that which is best in them. But it doesn't mean that you need to necessarily be part of their life or bring them very close to you. You want to be very selective about the people you bring very close to you, because their energies, their nature can possibly contaminate us, and we need to be careful about that. As you grow spiritually, you will have more strength to take on things. But then again, I still recommend, no matter how much you grow spiritually, try and be amongst like-minded people. Try and be amongst those. Everybody has some good qualities, no doubt about that. But we need to look at the other side as well. We don't need to be foolish. We don't need to close our eyes and be blind. In the beginning, sometimes we don't know. But when we do know, then it's important for us to be discerning of who we want to be our friends, our partners, who we want to bring into our life, who we want to hang out with. We need to be discerning. So when I said that, I did not mean it as a blanket statement, but rather something to cultivate as you meet people socially, as you meet people in the course of life. If we can even do this just socially, try to see the best in others, it's a great thing. As far as bringing them closer, that's a whole other thing. All right. Thank you for your question, Jazz. Appreciate it. Is anyone else? Hi, Rima. Welcome. Yes. Okay. So here's the interesting part, Rima, and I love your question. Thank you so much. What a great point to bring up. We live in a world, in a body, with a mind, right? This mind is designed to perceive duality, right? The body feels hot, it feels cold. The mind experiences happiness, it experiences sorrow. So this organism we live in is by nature dualistic. Our soul, on the other hand, is non-dualistic. So we have these two forces that have come together. The soul is present within the body-mind organism. And although it would like to be non-dualistic, it experiences a world that is full of duality. So Krishna says, Ichha dvesha samudena dvanda mohena bharata. That the dvanda, the duality of this world, which is caused by desire and hate, right? That is the cause of our suffering. That is the deepest cause. If I had no desire and no hate, if I had no desire, I would not have hate, right? If I didn't want something, then I would not be upset if I didn't get it. That could be material, tangible, but could also be someone respecting me. It could be someone liking me. It could be someone, treating me as an equal. Those are all desires which the ego wants. When those desires are unfulfilled, then we feel either hurt, upset, angry, hateful, any one of those, a whole range of qualities that arise from that when we do not get what we want. Now, as we raise our consciousness to the place of non-duality, you cannot fake it. You cannot get there just with your mind. Your mind is not capable of non-duality. Your soul is capable of it. Therefore, as you meditate and as you spend time quieting the mind and getting in touch with this inner self, you want to make this, the soul, the center of your existence. You want to make your soul your identity. Right now, the ego is the identity. We need to make the soul the identity, and that is a question of choice. I must connect with this part of me. I must connect and say to myself, this is who I am. This being, this peace that I feel inside me, this beauty of this way of looking at the world, this way of living with compassion and kindness which arises from within, this is who I am. And the more you identify with that part of you at a very tangible and visceral level by experience, not by intellect, but by experience, that's why meditation is so important, then you have that experience and now you latch your ego into that. You say, look, this is who I am. And you allow this part of you to guide you, to help you live your life from a place of non-duality. You then have to steer your mind. Your mind is your vehicle. Now your mind is no longer controlling you, but you are controlling your mind. And you now get to guide it and steer it in the actions that demonstrate non-duality, that demonstrate compassion, that demonstrate acceptance, that demonstrate love. Are you following me?
I think so. So it's choosing to see things with a different lens.
Yes, a totally different lens. A lens of a spiritual lens. Again, this is not a product of reading. This is not a product of even listening to talks like this. This is not a product of anything other than quieting your mind. There is no shortcut. Now, that quieting of the mind can be done as a matter of effort and regular, consistent practice. It can also be a product of grace. As we connect with God and as we surrender to God, our life, our desires, our everything, we come to that place where grace begins to fill us. And grace means that we are now being changed from the inside out. Our desires, our nature, everything is starting to change. I practically have seen this happen, and I can tell you again and again, I think I may have repeated it, I may have said it before, that I have not done so much hard work on myself as many other people have done. For me, everything, all the changes that occurred within me, and it's nowhere near perfect, but all that has occurred, I attribute to God, to the grace of God. I have been blessed with that. Blessed why? Not because I'm chosen or special or anything else, but because I keep surrendering. Because with all the obstacles that come my way, they become a new opportunity to surrender to God. The more I do that, the more grace showers down upon me. And so it shall be with you. Because obstacles will come our way. They come our way not because God wants to torment us or because this world is so horrible, but because those are the opportunities to let go of the struggle and to let God guide us and support us and ultimately transform us from within. I hope that makes some sense. Any more questions? Let's see, we've got Octavio, Gabriel.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, Bruce.
Bruce.
If you don't mind putting on the video, that will be nice. If you have any issues, if it's going on YouTube, that's fine. Then don't.
So I'm eating and drinking. I don't
Okay.
want to. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
But what are your suggestions? What do you do when you feel a very deep hatred for someone?
Mm-hmm. Hate is a very powerful force. But behind all hate, if you look at what is the flip side of hate, what is the flip side of hate?
You're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. What is the flip side of hate? What is the polar opposite?
Well, I mean, it would seem to be love, but I'm skeptical about it. But logically, it would seem to be love, but I am skeptical of it.
Okay. See, intense hate requires you to have intense love. Now, yes, you might say that one, if taken at a bigger level, that this is in interpersonal relationships that we might be able to say that we have intense feelings about someone. But now, hate can also arise towards a particular person who has wronged you, right? And you may not have loved that person. That may be a different gender or different race, a different income bracket or whatever else, nationality. If certain people have harmed you, you may or may not have loved them, but you may have believed them. You may have in some way trusted them, or you may have in some way felt that this person won't, in some way you let yourself think that they were good maybe. And then you found out the opposite. And therein comes the hate. So it's not necessary that you loved this person, but you did trust them or something of that sort. There's other factors. The point being, we let ourselves go to one extreme, and then that extreme generates its polar opposite. And that's the part we need to look at. If you can look at both things simultaneously, that which you love and that which you hate, that which you agree with and that which you disagree with, and bring those two together, what are the positives and what are the negatives of this person, or this situation, or this place, or this political party, or whatever? If you can look at the positives and negatives simultaneously, right, then you will find your hate dissolve. But if you only look at one side, then you will breed hate. Hate is a result of having tunnel vision. When you only see one side of a situation, it is very easy to cultivate anger. Or sometimes I'll get very upset with someone, all right? And I've had this happen on a few occasions. And then the immediate thing is, because I've built up this whole thing in story in my head, that this person did this and it means this and it's because of this, and they don't respect me and they don't care about me and they're mistreating me. I built up a whole story. My mind is so good at doing this. Then I asked them, why did you do that? And I find out that they had a perfectly reasonable reason for why they were doing what they were doing. And then I realized my mind just made up such a big story, got me all worked up, and it was all nonsense. And as I bring the two together, the truth of that person and the truth of what I thought, I realize none of this matters. So I have a simple formula to share with you. +1 minus 1 equals 0. +1 is one point of view. +2 is its opposite. -2 is its opposite point of view. If you can bring these two together, +1 minus 1, they will negate each other. In any conflict, this will work. You will come to the place of 0, 0 being the place of peace, the place of harmony, where all that hate and all that anger dissolves. That's all we have time for today. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. If you'd like to be on our mailing list, just write down your email address here, those of you that are new. And for the rest of you, I look forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday, at the same time, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We're here. And look forward to having you join us. If you've missed any of the episodes, they're all there on my YouTube channel. So look forward to having you there. All right, take care. Have a wonderful night. And
thank you, Rohit. Good night.
Thank you.